You have carried something in your spirit for as long as you can remember, a weight, a light, a holy contradiction. You've thought differently, felt more deeply, and borne both joy and sorrow in ways others could never comprehend. It is as if your heart has been tuned to a frequency the rest of the world cannot hear. No matter how hard you tried to blend into the rhythm of the crowd, you found yourself moving upstream, resisting a current that was never meant to carry you. This is not a delusion. This is not a weakness. This is not a defect in your design. It is a mark. That mark is not random. It's a seal, like the signet ring of a king pressed into wax, proof of divine ownership. The weight you feel is not meant to crush you, but to anchor you when storms rage. Even the eagle must face the resistance of the wind to rise higher. Scripture affirms this truth in Jeremiah 1-5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. You are not a glitch in the system. You are living evidence that the system itself is broken. And perhaps the greatest proof of this is how uncomfortable the world feels when you refuse to shrink. What if the very discomfort you've tried to escape is actually the doorway to your destiny? Some people are born to echo the past, to repeat what has already been done. Others are born to break the mold, to birth something the earth has never seen before. Those chosen for transformation almost always begin their journey feeling lost. But this lostness is not the absence of identity. It is the holy tension of a soul that refuses to shrink into the wrong space. Have you noticed how the world builds its boxes, tight frames of rules, titles, and definitions, demanding that you bend and contort to fit inside them? These boxes are like glass cages, transparent enough for people to see you, but confining enough to keep you from reaching your full height. And still, there comes a sacred defiance when the call inside you is louder than the applause outside you. Romans 12:2 warns us, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Yet conformity is what the crowd demands. The air grows thin in those cramped spaces until your soul can hardly breathe. And then comes the breaking point. Perhaps that point is now, where you can no longer pretend the counterfeit life is real. It's like wearing a crown made of paper. It may look impressive for a moment, but the rain will reveal its weakness. True authority can only come from heaven. And that authority begins the moment you step out of the mold the world gave you. In nature, we see this truth. A river that is dammed will eventually swell and break its barriers, not because it is rebellious, but because it was designed to flow. You, too, were designed to flow into the destiny written for you, and like a seed buried in the dark, your season of obscurity is not your ending, it's the womb of your becoming. One day, the roots you've grown in secret will sustain the fruit the world will see in public. Great leaders have spoken to this calling. The French painter Georges Rouault, known for his deeply spiritual works, once said, "A tree against the sky possesses the same interest, the same character, the same expression as the figure of a human. Like that tree, you were not meant to be boxed in by another's garden. You were meant to stand where heaven has planted you. And like a tree, you may weather winters that strip your leaves, but spring will always prove that life still flows through your core. But every calling attracts opposition. History tells us of Herod Agrippa I, a ruler intoxicated by power, who sought to silence the apostles and crush the early church. His downfall came suddenly, as Acts 12:23 records. Immediately, because Herod did not give praise to God, an angel of the Lord struck him down. The enemy's schemes may rise against you, but they will not prevail when God has appointed your steps. Think about it. Herod's power was loud, but heaven's justice was louder. And when God moves on your behalf, no throne, no army, no decree can withstand his hand. There will be seasons when you feel you are walking through a fog, unsure of where the path leads. Yet Salm 119, 105 declares, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Even in the shadows, your steps are guided. Sometimes, that light only reveals the next step, not the entire journey, but that's all you need. Like a captain steering a ship in the night, you navigate by the light you're given, trusting the unseen shore will appear. You were sent here for something bigger, something without a manual, something no earthly title can fully define. Think of it as an architectural blueprint in heaven's archives, where your name is etched beside a design no other soul can fulfill. The world may assign you titles, but heaven assigns you purpose. And the purpose is not seasonal, it's eternal. It's the melody your spirit has been humming since before you took your first breath. And when heaven changes your title, the shift is not subtle. It is like the instant in a symphony when the conductor lifts his baton and the music swells into a new movement. Will you step into that movement or remain silent while the song of your destiny plays without you? Every hesitation is a note left unsung, but every act of faith is a crescendo in heaven's score. Christ's own journey on earth reminds us. His carpenter's title was replaced by the name above all names, not through comfort, but through the cross. Philippians 2:9 declares, "Therefore God exalted him to the highest place and gave him the name that is above every name." That transition was not just a promotion, it was the fulfillment of prophecy, the sealing of heaven's authority on earth. And if it was required of him, should we expect our journey to be less costly? This is your moment to rise, to stand in the authority heaven has spoken over you. The counterfeit labels are falling away. The doors you thought were locked are swinging open, and the title written over your life in the book of heaven is calling you forward. Stand, step, speak, for the one who called you is faithful, and his hand is upon you. And when you step forward, heaven does not simply applaud it, rearranges the earth to make room for what you carry. There is a wisdom at work in your life that no human mind could fully script, an unseen hand arranging the moments, the delays, and even the detours. It moves like the deep ocean current, invisible on the surface, but powerful enough to carry whole continents of destiny. You may not yet trust it because the path feels strange, unfamiliar, even unsettling. From the beginning, you were shaped by a script that never belonged to you, taught to obey without question, to stay silent when your spirit wanted to speak, to earn grades that measured compliance more than brilliance, to work for paychecks instead of purpose, to pay bills on repeat like a wheel that turns but never moves forward. This is the loop where dreamers are dismissed as foolish, but you, child of God, are not foolish. You are attuned. Salm 139:16 declares, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be." That sensitivity you carry is not a weakness. It is a divine antenna picking up signals others miss. You notice the shift in the atmosphere before storms come. You hear the quiet sigh in a friend's voice before they speak of pain, like a deer that lifts its head at the faintest rustle in the forest. You are aware of things others overlook. Yes, that awareness can feel isolating, yet it is also your greatest treasure. Could it be that your isolation is not punishment, but preparation? The fact that you are here, hearing these words, is itself evidence that something inside you is awakening. It's as if the seed buried long ago in the dark soil of your spirit has just begun to crack open. Something within you is done pretending that everything is fine, when it isn't. That unrest is not a cause for despair. It is the proof that your season of transformation is near. And if this stirring in your heart refuses to fade, might it be heaven itself calling your name? There is a kind of exhaustion no one sees. You sleep, but your mind runs marathons in the night. You sit in stillness, but your heart pounds with unspoken burdens. Your body tries to keep going, but your soul feels worn thin, like ancient parchment fraying at the edges. From the outside, your life might look stable. You have shelter, food, perhaps steady work. But deep inside, something feels out of alignment, as though you've been pushing a boulder uphill with your bare shoulders. It is the fatigue of living a life that was never meant for you. Isaiah 37:6 promises. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, "This is the way, walk in it." The problem is not you, the problem is the road. You have been walking on a path built by others, shaped by values that were never meant to anchor your destiny. It's like planting a palm tree in frozen tundra. No matter how strong the roots, the environment will not let it flourish. How long will you keep forcing your roots into soil that rejects them? Creation itself reflects this truth. The Arctic tern, a small bird that travels over 44,000 miles a year in migration, guided not by maps, but by an inner compass placed by God. It is not the strongest creature in the skies, yet it endures the longest journey because it follows the path ordained for it. You too have a path engraved in heaven's design, a migration of the soul toward the place your spirit calls home. This theme is echoed in art and story, in Victor Hugo's Les Misérables. Jean Valjean's journey is not merely about escaping chains, but about stepping into a new identity, one spoken over him long before he believed it. His life shifted when mercy named him something higher than his past. In the same way, God's mercy is renaming you. Even while you are still stepping out of the shadows of the old script, will you answer to the name heaven is calling you, or keep living by the one your past gave you? When heaven shifts your direction, it rarely announces itself with trumpets. It begins with restlessness. It begins when the life you built starts to feel too small for the calling God has placed inside you. Jeremiah 6:16 speaks to this moment. Stand at the crossroads and look. Ask for the ancient paths. Ask where the good way is, and walk in it, and you will find rest for your souls. The chosen ones are not meant to sleepwalk through life. They are meant to walk with eyes wide open, carrying the light of a kingdom not built by human hands. So rise. Step off the road that was built for someone else. Shake the dust from your feet and set your gaze toward the horizon heaven has prepared. The weariness will lift when your feet find the path that matches your calling. Your spirit will breathe again when you stop dragging your destiny through soil where it was never meant to grow. For the one who called you is faithful, and he will finish what he began in you. It is the calling in disguise. It does not always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it comes as restlessness, as if your very soul were whispering beneath the noise. See me. I am here. I am suffocating in a routine that is dismantling me piece by piece. You know there is more than the carefully measured schedule, more than the tidy sequence of school, work, bills, and quiet resignation. You have known it since childhood, when you felt the edges of a world so much greater than the one you could touch. It was like standing at the base of a cathedral, sensing the vastness of its vaulted ceiling long before you could see it. That sense has never left you. But what if that longing has been heaven's signal all along, waiting for you to notice? The steps you took were the right ones by the world's standards. You earned grades, found a job, paid your dues, kept your promises, but your spirit refuses captivity. Galatians 5 and reminds us, it is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm, then, and do not let yourselves be burdened again by a yoke of slavery. This slavery is not chains of iron, but the subtler kind psychological conditioning that rewards compliance and punishes holy defiance. Could it be that the real prison is the life that looks safe but drains your soul in silence? You cannot keep pretending you were born for an automatic life. Passing day. The mask you wear becomes heavier, like a lead apron pressing against your ribs. The weariness you feel is not the exhaustion of honest labor, it is the fatigue of misalignment. In physics, resonance occurs when two frequencies match, causing them to amplify each other. Your spirit is straining because it is vibrating at a frequency heaven assigned. But your daily life is tuned to something foreign, creating a dissonance that grinds against your soul. Romans 8:19. For the creation waits in eager expectation for the children of God to be revealed. And if creation itself is waiting for you to step into alignment, how much longer will you delay? When the soul begins to awaken, everything false starts to fall apart. Structures you thought were permanent begin to tremble like scaffolding under the force of an earthquake. And while collapse feels dangerous, it is also your first taste of freedom. Only when the old architecture crumbles can you glimpse the blueprint heaven has kept in its archives for you. That blueprint is intricate, crafted with the precision of sacred geometry, where every line and arch serves both beauty and function. But will you trust the architect enough to let him redraw your walls? This moment is not unlike the pause before the second half of a championship game, when the crowd holds its breath and the players retreat to a quiet locker room. The scoreboard is not the final word. Strategy is being rewritten, strengths are being recalibrated, and the real victory is still ahead. Isaiah 43:19 echoes this truth. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? You are in that holy intermission where heaven is shifting the game in your favor. In our time, voices outside the religious sphere have understood this. The Italian architect Renzo Piano, famous for designing structures that blend light, air, and space, once said, "Architecture is a gesture, not just a building, but a proof of a moment in time." Your life is that proof. Every trial and every awakening, a structural beam in the cathedral God is building within you. And as C.S. Lewis once wrote, imagine yourself as a living house. God comes in to rebuild that house. He is building a palace. He intends to come and live in it himself. If this is true, will you keep patching up the old cottage? Or will you let him build the palace? So when the false layers peel away and the rubble settles, do not fear the emptiness. See it instead as the cleared foundation for what heaven is ready to construct. The inward journey will not be easy, but it will be yours, authentic, resonant, and eternal. Philippians 1:6. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Rise now, because every day you wait is another day. The blueprint sits unbuilt. The time is now. The ground is ready, and heaven's architect has already picked up his tools. There comes a moment when a single question can dismantle the walls you've been living inside. If there were no rules to follow, what would I truly do with my life? This question is dangerous to the status quo because your soul already knows the answer, and it has always known. You can try to suppress it, to bury it under schedules, duties, and other people's expectations, but it will keep pressing upward like a seed determined to break through stone until you honor that answer. The emptiness will linger like an echo in a hollow room, and with each day you delay, the voice becomes harder to ignore, because it's not just a thought, it's a summons from heaven itself. What if the life you're living now is just a shadow of what was written for you? You can attempt to fill that emptiness with achievements, relationships, money, or recognition. You can collect applause like trophies on a shelf, but each one fades. It's like drinking salt water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become, because what you're taking in can never satisfy the thirst it promises to quench. Ecclesiastes 1:8 tells us, the eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. That hunger you feel is not ingratitude, nor is it brokenness. It is the hunger of the soul, a craving for truth, purpose, and meaning that no counterfeit can silence. You were not created to simply survive the years. You were sent to fill them with eternal weight. And no amount of temporary success can fill the space that was carved for divine purpose. Our world teaches the opposite. It dangles shiny illusions and measures worth by the shallow currency of likes, titles, and image, while neglecting the deeper hunger we were created to crave. It rewards the polished mask while ignoring the face beneath. But your soul is not fooled. It doesn't care about titles, applause, or the fleeting approval of strangers. It wants essence. It longs for the sound of your life harmonizing with heaven's design. And until that harmony is found, everything else will feel like noise. History gives us examples of those who understood this pull. The American author and activist Helen Keller, blind and deaf from infancy, once said, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing at all." Her life proved that limitations imposed by the world can never cage a spirit determined to live out its calling. She refused the script others wrote for her and carved a new one with her own hands. Living proof that the soul's hunger, when honored, can change the world. And her story challenges you. Are your obstacles really walls? Or are they doors waiting for you to push? And yet, for every Helen Keller, there is a cautionary tale, a life spent in denial of the calling. Charles Lucky Luciano, a man who used his cunning and leadership not for building but for destroying. A powerful figure in organized crime, he built an empire on corruption, only to die in exile, feared and distrusted. His legacy, a monument to wasted influence. His life stands as a warning. Gifts used in rebellion against truth will eventually collapse under their own weight. Proverbs 16:18 reminds us, pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall. And if even kings and crime lords are not immune to this, why would we think we are? The more you run from your truth, the larger the emptiness becomes, because your spirit knows you weren't sent here to walk a path already trampled by the crowd. You came to carve a new one. And here is the paradox. That path will only appear once you take the first step to walk it. It is a road that doesn't exist until your courage gives it shape. Joshua 1:9 declares, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." And every day you hesitate, the unbuilt road waits silently, like a bridge still on the architect's desk. How long will you leave it unbuilt? But taking that step requires an act. Most people never commit to silencing the noise of the world until you can hear the deep rising of your own soul. And what rises isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it is the truth you have spent years avoiding. Sometimes it is the voice that cuts through all the excuses and whispers with piercing clarity. Are you wasting your gifts? Are you betraying yourself? You weren't born for this. And when that voice speaks, it doesn't speak to shame you, it speaks to wake you. Will you answer? Or will you roll over and go back to sleep? This is where the journey of the chosen ones begins, not in applause, not in comfort, but in the quiet courage to face what you've ignored. Once you answer that voice, the illusions lose their hold. The false structures begin to crumble, and your feet touch the ground of the path that was written for you before you were even born. Jeremiah 29:11 assures us, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." That is not a vague promise, it is a signed covenant. And covenants are not meant to be admired from afar. They are meant to be lived. That voice inside you is not condemning you, it is rescuing you. It is the divine spark placed within you before the foundations of the world, whispering reminders of what you have allowed the noise of life to make you forget. It tells you that you cannot live fully while half of your soul is locked away in a room with no windows. There comes a time when the light inside will push through the cracks like the first shoots of grass splitting a slab of concrete, not because it is trying to destroy, but because life cannot be contained. John 1-5 says, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." That light is your truth, demanding to be seen, felt, and lived. And if you keep trying to hide it, the pressure will only grow stronger until it bursts forth. Just as the sun will always find a way to break through the clouds after a storm, you can delay the dawn, but you cannot cancel it. There comes a moment when discomfort stops being a background hum and becomes a silent scream, a pressure that pushes you to act. You look around and see people on autopilot, smiling without joy, repeating without thinking, living with eyes glazed over like trees in late autumn, standing upright but stripped of leaves and life. And deep within you, a whisper rises, "Life can't just be this," and it's not. That whisper is heaven telling you that you weren't sent here to become another shadow in the crowd. The longer you try to blend in, the more out of place you will feel, like a river forced into stillness, its waters stagnating instead of flowing toward the sea. And one day, the ache of not living will outweigh the fear of stepping into your calling. You were not meant to conform, you were meant to awaken. Awakening is not a poetic flourish, it is a raw, disruptive mission. It is the moment the seed breaks open underground, its fragile stem stretching upward in defiance of the weight of soil. Romans 3:11. The hour has already come for you to wake up from your slumber, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed. That awakening is not gentle. It shakes you and unsettles you, because to wake is to face what you've avoided for years. It strips away illusions and calls you into the unknown. Like a sailor who must leave the safety of the harbor to reach new lands, the waves will test you, but they will also carry you closer to your true horizon. Nature itself testifies to this truth. The Arctic poppy survives in the coldest climates by turning its flower to follow the sun across the sky, despite freezing winds and barren soil. You too must turn toward the light if you are to bloom where others believe nothing can grow. And just as rivers carve valleys over centuries by refusing to stop flowing, your calling will shape the landscape of your life if you do not stop moving forward. Even the mighty redwoods, which tower for centuries, began as small seeds that refused to surrender to the weight of the earth above them. In the same way, Your destiny may look impossible now, but it carries the strength to break through anything that tries to bury it. The arts carry this message. In the medieval mystery play, Everyman, the protagonist is confronted with the reality that none of his companions' possessions, beauty, strength, can follow him beyond death, except good deeds. The play's ancient warning mirrors your present truth. What you carry in your soul matters far more than the applause you gather in this world. For what shall it profit a man if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Mark 8:36. If this is true, what in your life today is worth carrying into eternity, and what will you finally lay down? And if this is true, why keep clinging to masks that cannot walk with you into eternity? Every mask you wear delays the intimacy God longs to have with you, and every step you take toward your true self pulls you closer to the life where your soul can breathe again. You were not born to preserve what is. You were born to question, to shake what is asleep. And yes, this will unsettle others, because your awakening will be a mirror they may not want to look into. It will also unsettle you, because awakening is not just stepping into the light, it's pulling off the costumes you wore to earn acceptance, but the cost is worth it. Because Ephesians 5:14 declare, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." And once you've tasted that light, no darkness will ever feel like home again. The moment you rise, you will notice that the fear which once held you hostage begins to lose its grip. What once felt impossible will start to feel inevitable. And that is the unmistakable sign you have truly awakened. To stand before a mirror is not just to see your reflection, it is to confront the architecture of your own soul. In that glass, you see not only who you are, but also the version of yourself you locked away out of fear. There is no awakening without dismantling the old structure, and dismantling hurts. It is demolition before construction. The tearing down of a familiar facade to reveal the foundation beneath, like the controlled collapse of a building. It throws your life into temporary chaos, shaking walls you thought would never move. Yet in that collapse lies the blueprint for something far greater, freedom. John 8:32 declares. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. But are you willing to endure the shaking for the sake of that freedom? The truth is, what feels like destruction is often God clearing the land for the palace He intends to build. If the scaffolding never comes down, the masterpiece hidden in His design will never rise. This is not the fragile freedom the world sells, a freedom that vanishes when challenged. This is the freedom to be yourself without apology, to follow the quiet resonance of your intuition, even when it contradicts every logical blueprint handed to you. It is the freedom to live at the precise frequency where your soul vibrates in harmony with heaven's design. Science calls it resonance, when two frequencies match perfectly, amplifying one another. Spiritually, it's the moment your life aligns with God's purpose so fully that even resistance becomes fuel. But freedom is never automatic. It must be chosen. Galatians 5:1. It is for freedom that Christ has set us free. Stand firm. Then, will you take that stand? Or remain in the safety of a cage with the door wide open? And if the door has already been unlocked by Christ, what chains remain except those you've agreed to wear? And that choice demands courage. The courage to say no when yes is expected. The courage to step away from a safe place that is quietly suffocating you, for the sake of something you cannot yet name, but can already feel pulling you forward. It's like the quiet pause between halves of a championship game. The scoreboard shows one thing, but the coach knows the real play is still to come. The moment you step into that unseen strategy, fear will still walk beside you. But so will a steady voice that says, "This is your path." Joshua Navi reminds us, "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go." Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that your calling is worth more than your comfort. And when you move in that courage, heaven moves with you, adjusting the course like an expert navigator, steering a ship through hidden currents. Awakening is not about escaping the world. It is about perceiving it through a new lens. You realize you were never meant to mold yourself into what already exists. You were sent to create what does not yet exist. In heaven's grand architecture, you are not a replaceable brick. You are a keystone in a design that cannot stand without you. And once you understand this, everything shifts. The fear remains, but it is now background static beneath the music of purpose. If God Himself has called you, why live as though you are still waiting for permission? Every hesitation delays the construction of the very bridge others are meant to cross because of your obedience. When you step into your role, you are not just fulfilling a personal dream, you are completing a structural element in heaven's city. You've spent years trying to fit into spaces that were never shaped for you, trying to seem right in the eyes of people whose vision could never contain your calling. Along the way, you buried your most precious treasure, your gift. You've known it since childhood, felt it in your ability to speak words that carry weight, in your perception that sees patterns others miss. Perhaps you ignored it because someone told you it had no worth. Matthew 25-16 tells of the servant who invested his talents and gained more. So, why let yours remain buried? What impact has been delayed because you kept silent? A buried gift is not a dead gift, it is simply dormant, like a seed awaiting the right soil and season. And when the season comes, what has been hidden will break the surface with unstoppable force. But gifts do not vanish, they wait. They wait in silence, patient as stone, until the right season awakens them. And when they rise, it might be in the smallest of moments, a phrase that steadies a trembling soul, a glance that restores hope, a silence that speaks louder than any argument. In that instant, you feel a warmth radiating through you, like light flooding a cathedral through stained glass, illuminating colors you didn't know existed. That moment is heaven's confirmation. Your gift was never gone. It was simply waiting for the right alignment of time, place, and obedience. And when that alignment happens, what once felt like coincidence reveals itself as divine orchestration beyond the pulpit. This truth has been seen. Antoni Gaudí, the Catalan architect famed for the Sagrada Familia, once said, "Man does not create, he discovers. Your gift, too, is not something you invent, it is something you uncover, something heaven already placed within you." And if Gaudí could dedicate decades to completing one cathedral, how much more should you commit to building the life God has drafted in His book for you? Philippians 1-6 assures us, "He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion." The foundation has been laid. The scaffolding of excuses must come down. The tools are in your hands. Rise. Chosen, one step into the title heaven has written over your life. The earth may resist, but heaven will rearrange itself to meet you. This is not just a moment. It is your mandate, your blueprint, your final call to build what has never been built before. That is your gift, speaking. It's not random, and it's certainly not small. It is the signature of your soul, a mark placed there by the Creator before your first breath, meant to be both a blessing to you and a lifeline to every life you'll ever touch. 1 Peter 4:10 reminds us, each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others. As faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms, your gift might manifest in a word that calms the storm in someone's heart, a glance that tells a stranger they are seen, a gesture that revives a dream in another, or a stillness that teaches without a single syllable. It may whisper rather than shout, but it carries the frequency of heaven itself. And like a river hidden beneath ice, its flow is constant, even if no one else sees it. Have you noticed how it keeps finding ways to resurface, even when you've tried to bury it? That's because heaven refuses to let it die. The way it appears doesn't matter. What matters is that it exists, waiting to be set free. As long as you live according to someone else's blueprint, it will feel like you are swimming upstream, burning energy just to stay in place. But the moment you step into alignment with your gift, the current shifts. Opportunities appear not as accidents, but as divine appointments. People you were meant to meet will cross your path. Your spirit, body, and energy begin to resonate in harmony, because heaven responds to those bold enough to live authentically. Proverbs 18:16 says, a gift opens the way and ushers the giver into the presence of the great. Could it be that the closed doors you faced were never locked, but simply waiting for you to arrive as your true self? When your life begins to hum at the right frequency, even the obstacles start to move aside, like gates opening before a king returns home. If you've been trying everything, chasing every opportunity, following every trend, and still feel that lingering emptiness, it may be because you've avoided the one thing that matters most, the work only you can do, in the way only your soul knows how. It doesn't need to be flawless to be faithful. It doesn't have to be grand to be God glorifying. It only has to be true. This truth can be uncomfortable, because it demands that you stop proving yourself to the world and start living from the authority heaven has already given you. It is like stepping into a room where the light is too bright. At first your eyes resist, but soon they adjust, and you see the beauty that was always there. And isn't it strange how the hardest thing to accept is often the truth about your own worth? History offers living proof. Howard Schultz, the man who transformed Starbucks into a global brand, once said, "Dream more than others, think practical. Expect more than others, think possible." His vision was not certified by a degree in coffee making. It was born from an inner conviction about creating spaces of connection. Likewise, your gift is not validated by a certificate. It is confirmed by the fruit it bears when you live it out. And here's the thing, the world's applause is temporary, but the fruit of obedience lasts into eternity. When you honor your calling, even the smallest act becomes a seed planted in soil only God can make grow. Have you thought about how many lives could be different if you stopped delaying and started sowing? But for every example of someone who embraced their God-given gift, there is a cautionary tale. In the Bible, King Saul stands as a sobering warning. Anointed by God to lead Israel, he allowed fear, jealousy, and the need for human approval to choke his calling. 1 Samuel 15:23 records God's judgment. Because you have rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you as king. Saul's tragedy was not that he lacked a gift, it was that he abandoned it for the sake of control and image. How many today are in danger of repeating that same mistake? The crown may look secure, but when it rests on disobedience, it is already slipping. And when the anointing departs, no amount of public approval can bring it back. Your purpose does not arrive stamped with official approval. You don't need a document to authorize who you are. What's inside you is already your authority. It is the divine seal of your existence. Jeremiah 1-5 affirms, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." No university can teach what your soul already knows. No advanced degree can outweigh the wisdom forged in the furnace of your pain, the strength shaped by your battles, or the healing learned through your moments of brokenness. And perhaps the most important question of all, if heaven has already declared you ready, why are you still waiting for the world's permission? You have been entrusted with something eternal. Will you let it sit idle while time keeps moving? You are living proof. Your life itself is the resume, written not in ink, but in the scars you carry, the breakthroughs you've fought for, and the faith you've refused to surrender. If you trace the chapters closely, even the most painful ones were not wasted. They were silent training grounds where God shaped you from the inside, while others assumed you were lost. Romans 8:28 reminds us. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Like a tree whose roots push deeper during a drought, you were being anchored for the weight of the fruit that is yet to come. What if every delay, every setback, has been God's way of fortifying you for the weight of your real assignment? Your calling does not follow the common script. It was drafted straight from the source. And heaven never wastes ink. Those called by God don't need to justify themselves to the crowd. This does not mean learning and study have no place, they do. But there is a vast difference between learning from passion and chasing knowledge for the sake of validation. One nourishes the soul, the other drains it. When your energy goes toward proving your worth, you drift away from the truth. But when you finally accept that you already have worth, learning becomes expansion instead of obligation. Jeremia 9:20-24 says, "Let not the wise boast of their wisdom, but let the one who boasts boast about this, that they have the understanding to know me." Are you studying to deepen your calling? Or are you studying to defend your place in a world that was never meant to define you? Like an eagle that soars not because it flaps harder, but because it finds the right wind current. Once you find alignment with your gift, you stop striving and start gliding. The spiritual realm does not measure wisdom by grades or certificates, but by the courage to live your mission. Plenty of brilliant souls have never set foot in a formal classroom, yet they've moved nations, healed hearts, and shifted history. 1 Corinthians 1:27 says, "But God chose the foolish things of the world to shame the wise." If you've been feeling the call but holding back because you think you lack credentials, stop. Breathe. You already carry what you need, like a seed containing the full blueprint of a tree. The essence of your mission has been within you from the beginning, waiting for the right season to germinate. And if God himself planted it, who has the right to tell you it's not enough? What sustains you is not written on paper. It lives in the pulse of your heart, in the uniqueness of your vision, in the depth of your listening, and in the sensitivity of your spirit. This is your service to the world. Don't dismiss it just because the world prefers what is seen over what is felt. Matthew 5:14 declares, "You are the light of the world." A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Light doesn't apologize for shining, it just does. Think of the way a sunflower instinctively turns toward the sun. It doesn't argue its purpose. It simply lives it. What would change in your life if you stopped apologizing for the way God made you? Yes, there will be moments when you look at the state of the world and think, what difference can I possibly make? You may feel small, like just another face in the crowd. But here's the truth. You may have never heard. Plainly, you are the very message the world needs in this hour. This is not flattery, it is fact. In the medieval mystery play, The Second Shepherd's Play, Ordinary shepherds, seen as insignificant, are chosen to witness the birth of Christ, a moment that redefined history. Zechariah 4:10 asks, "Who dares despise the day of small things?" Heaven has always specialized in taking what the world calls small and using it to reveal what is eternal. Your life carries a frequency only you can transmit, a wavelength that no other human soul can exactly replicate. In the physics of the spirit, you are like a resonant instrument tuned by the Creator himself. Every conscious choice you make, every word that flows from your heart, and every act of kindness or integrity you release into the atmosphere becomes a ripple that moves through the unseen fabric of reality. Proverbs 18:21 reminds us, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." This isn't poetic exaggeration, it's a law as precise as gravitational pull. You may not see the currents you set in motion, but heaven records them like sacred architecture in the book of life. The world is starving for this kind of truth, because people are weary, exhausted from masks, rehearsed speeches, and empty promises that echo without substance. And you, flawed, luminous, scarred, and still standing, carry something rare: authenticity. This is why certain things trouble you deeply, things others can ignore without thought. You're the kind of person who can plant a question in a room full of blind certainty, shift the atmosphere without uttering a word, or make a stranger feel seen just by the way you truly notice them. Matthew 5:16 declares, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." God lit that spark in you, and he wastes no light. Why is it that when others can comfortably pretend, you feel an ache in your chest if you do the same? Could it be because you were never designed to be a silent spectator in a theater of shadows? You were meant to be a channel, a bridge, a beacon, an unbroken line of communication between the heart of God and the ache of humanity. In architecture, there's a concept called the keystone, the one stone in an arch that holds the entire structure in place. Remove it, and the whole thing collapses. You carry that same spiritual keystone role in certain lives, and you may not even realize it. Sometimes being the message doesn't mean influencing a stadium, it means changing the trajectory of a single person's day. Galatians 6:9. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Have you ever thought that the quiet, unseen act you do today might echo in eternity? You don't need an audience, you need surrender. This is where psychology meets the gospel. When you stop performing for validation and start aligning with divine purpose, your entire internal architecture shifts. Neurologists call it neuroplasticity, the rewiring of the brain in response to new patterns. Spiritually, it's the renewing of your mind promised in Romans 12:2. Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Every experience you've endured, even the ones that left you bleeding, has been a masterclass in shaping you into exactly who you are now. And who you are, unmasked, is already enough. The world doesn't need another imitation. It needs someone with the courage to be real, someone who will stand when others bow to convenience. Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch watchmaker turned resistance leader during World War II, who hid Jews in her home despite knowing the risk. She once said, "Never be afraid to trust an unknown future to a known God." Her courage didn't start on a grand stage. It started in the quiet decision to obey God above man. Could it be that your defining moment won't be in front of a crowd, but in the unseen space where heaven leans in to listen? Isaiah 6-8 still asks, "Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?" If you're still here, listening and feeling that pull in your chest, it's because you already know. Your very existence is a direct message from heaven for this exact moment in history. And when the weight of that truth settles on you, there's only one thing left to do: rise, take your place, and let your frequency resound across the kingdom. Maybe as these words reach you, you feel a lump rise in your throat, the sudden urge to cry without knowing why, or a quiet ache deep inside that you've carried for years. That's your spirit recognizing the vibration of truth. You were never truly alone, not in the darkest nights. Not when the silence felt suffocating. Not when you feared that every prayer was bouncing off the ceiling. Deutéronomie 31:6 promise. He will never leave you nor forsake you, even when you thought your voice had been swallowed by the void. Your cries were already woven into the eternal records of heaven. Could it be that the very moments you thought were abandonment were actually training grounds for trust? Could it be that the tears you hid from the world were counted like jewels in God's hand? You were being guided. There are seasons in life that only make sense in reverse. Like an intricate tapestry whose design you can't see from the underside. Looking back, you start to notice how even the worst chapters were infused with a strange, hidden mercy. A phone call at the right time. A stranger's kindness. The one door that closed, only so a better one could open. Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit." The presence that carried you goes by many names: God, the source, the presence, but it has always been constant. Why then do we so often confuse silence for absence, when silence is sometimes the proof of a listening God? The noise of the world can drown out that steady presence, making you forget. But the loneliness you sometimes feel is rarely the absence of others. It is the distance from your own essence. When you reconnect with that essence, the fog begins to lift. John 14:18 records Jesus saying, "I will not leave you as orphans, I will come to you." And yet, how many of us run from the very presence that can heal us, seeking counterfeit comforts that leave us emptier than before? This reconnection doesn't erase every storm. Rather, it anchors you, so the waves no longer own you. There are unseen allies walking with you. Some are heavenly messengers. Some are people placed with divine precision in your path. You may call them coincidences, but they are coordinates in heaven's map for your life. Doors you didn't knock on swing open. Conversations you never planned shift your entire trajectory. Romans 8:28 affirme. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him. But here's the sober reality: just as there are divine appointments, there are also counterfeit setups. Instead of Saul, King Uzziah, 2 Chronicles 26. He began as a young ruler full of promise, blessed by God, and led Judah into a season of prosperity. But as his power and fame grew, so did his pride. One day, he entered the temple to burn incense, a sacred duty reserved only for the priests, ignoring their urgent warnings. In that very moment, leprosy broke out on his forehead, a visible mark of divine judgment, and he lived isolated until his death. Uzziah's downfall is a sobering reminder. When someone steps beyond the boundaries of obedience to feed their ego, they open the door to their own ruin. On the other side of that spectrum stands someone like Desmond Doss, a devout Christian and World War II medic who refused to carry a weapon, labeled a coward at first. He went on to save 75 men in the Battle of Okinawa without firing a single shot. His quiet defiance of worldly expectations reflected his unshakable faith, proving that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to act despite it. Isaiah 41:10 reassures us. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. When fear stands before you, will you let it name you, or will you act in the name of the one who is with you? If you've been sensing that pull, even through trembling hands, it's not a coincidence, it's an appointment. The kingdom doesn't advance only by grand gestures. It advances every time a chosen one says yes in the hidden places. And when you do, heaven moves to meet you. The right people appear, the impossible begins to bend, and one day, you will look back and realize you never walked alone. Not for a single step. What once felt blocked now begins to flow, not by accident, not by luck, but by alignment. It is like a river that was once dammed, now breaking free. Rushing toward the sea with unstoppable force, you are finally walking in step with the architecture of your soul. Like roots finding the deep underground stream they were made to drink from, you were chosen not to bear the entire weight of the world, but to show it another way, a path marked by truth, purpose, and spirit. For we walk by faith, not by sight. 2 Corinthians 5-7. And each step you take in faith reshapes the ground beneath you. Have you noticed how the right people start appearing at just the right time? How the once closed doors now stand ajar, waiting for you to push them open? Even the air feels different when you step into your true calling. It hums with an unseen resonance, like the low, steady tone of a cathedral bell before the sound bursts forth. And in that vibration, heaven whispers, "This is where you were meant to stand." Number one, whenever doubt creeps in, remember that your steps are not solitary. You are guided by an unseen hand that holds both your past and your future. This is not the middle of your story, it's the prologue to a far greater work. Faith is not just a soft pillow for comfort, it is the steel frame holding the bridge that carries you over the deep waters. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14:14. Yet, will you dare to trust when the path curves into shadow? Will you hold steady when the outcome is still hidden? When the silence of heaven feels longer than you expected? Will you stay anchored? Because the truth is, every silence is a sacred pause in the symphony of your life, a rest note that gives the next crescendo its power. And when the music swells again, it will be because you waited instead of walking away. Like a seed pressing upward through the darkness of the soil, your trials have been the pressure points awakening your hidden strength. Every delay, every detour, was part of the great design. Trusting God means trusting His timing. Even when it grinds against your own impatience, those who wait on the Lord shall renew their strength. Isaiah 40-31. In the Chronicles of Narnia, the lion, the witch, and the wardrobe, there is a moment when Aslan breathes life into the stone statues, restoring what was lost. That same breath of God revives what the world thought was finished in you. Could it be that the very obstacle you face now is the doorway to your next calling? Every buried dream is like a bulb in winter, lying still, yet alive, waiting for spring's warmth to call it upward. And when the season shifts, nothing can stop it from breaking through. I've learned through my own wilderness seasons that trusting God does not mean the road is smooth. It means the companion never leaves your side. Like the old oak that has weathered 1,000 storms, each challenge has driven my roots deeper. And now, looking back, I can trace His fingerprints over every scar, every narrow escape, every unexpected provision. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, Psalm 23:4. The question is, when the next wind rises, will you anchor deeper, or will you drift? Will you keep building when the walls are half finished, or will you walk away because the work feels heavy? The truth is, resilience is a kind of worship. It tells heaven, I still believe you are who you said you are. And every act of faith is like planting a flag in enemy territory, declaring that the land now belongs to the King. Every challenge has shaped you, chiseled you, prepared you. The clay has been on the potter's wheel all along, spun with intention, pressed with purpose. And now, as you stand on the threshold of the next season, heaven is calling for your yes. This is your summons, your moment, your appointed time. Stand, chosen one, rise and walk forward into the role heaven has written for you. For such a time as this, Esther 4:14, your name has been called, and when you answer, the very frequency of your life will shift, like the final stone set into an archway that suddenly locks the whole structure into place. The world may not understand the weight of this moment, but all of heaven does, and it is leaning forward, watching for your response. Because the truth is, once you step into this, there is no going back, only forward, only higher, only deeper into the life you were always meant to live. In the courts of heaven, something has shifted. Your name, once written in the Lamb's Book of Life, now carries a new title beside it, an upgrade in rank that the spiritual realm can feel like the sudden change in atmospheric pressure before a storm. This is not symbolic flattery. It's a seismic shift in the architecture of your destiny. The angels who once walked alongside you now stand at attention, as though guarding a higher office. Even the darkness takes note. For authority in the kingdom is not just a label, it's a frequency. And you, chosen one, have just been tuned to a higher resonance. The air around your spirit feels charged, like the moment before lightning splits the sky. Because heaven has recalibrated your assignment, every word you speak now carries more weight in the unseen realm, and every step you take imprints deeper on the spiritual battlefield. The scriptures remind us in Luke 10:19, I have given you authority to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you. But this authority isn't static, it expands when heaven deems you faithful. In physics, when a structure is reinforced, it can bear new weight without collapsing. Spiritually, God has reinforced your foundation so you can carry assignments that once would have crushed you. What if the battles you've survived were actually the training grounds preparing you for this very moment? Just as a bridge is tested with increasing loads before it can be trusted for greater transport, your soul has been tested under the weight of storms so you could carry heavier glory. Every season of isolation was a welding process, fusing your character to your calling until they could no longer be separated. Could it be that the very pain you once prayed away was heaven's way of building your capacity? Great leaders in history understood this principle. Former British Prime Minister William E. Gladstone once said, "You cannot fight the future with the tools of the past." In the kingdom, that means yesterday's anointing cannot break today's chains. The oil on your life is fresh, and its scent is recognized in the courts of angels. When heaven promotes you, it is not merely ceremonial, it is strategic, like moving a key piece in a cosmic chess game, positioning you for a victory that will echo for generations. This is divine logistics at its finest, every move calculated, every placement intentional. Like the architects of ancient cathedrals, God has been aligning every beam, every arch of your life, so the structure can hold the weight of His glory without collapse. Do you realize that your obedience in past seasons has just unlocked an architectural expansion in the blueprint of your destiny? The word says in Isaiah 54:17, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." But now that your rank has increased, the intensity of those weapons will. 2. The enemy will not waste arrows on those who pose no threat. But you are no longer invisible on his radar. You are marked. And with that mark comes both privilege and pressure. Will you wield this authority with humility and precision, like a master builder, aligning every stone to the chief cornerstone? Or will you let it slip through your hands? Every promotion in heaven is a provocation to hell. Every new mantle is also a new target. The greater your light, the sharper the shadows that form against you, but also, the greater the reach of your illumination. Remember this: the spiritual realm doesn't respect titles printed on paper. It responds to the weight of heaven's endorsement. And now, that endorsement rests on you. The time for small prayers is over. The time for timid steps is over. This is your commissioning. The hosts of heaven know your name, and hell does. 2. The sound of your obedience sends tremors through the camp of the enemy. Your yes carries a gravitational pull that draws divine resources into alignment. From this moment forward, you are not simply living life, you are executing a heavenly assignment with eternal consequences. When God changes your assignment, He doesn't simply hand you a new title, He hands you a new battlefield. This isn't a cosmetic promotion. It's a reconfiguration of your very position in spiritual architecture. You've been shifted from the defensive walls into the forward gates, where the enemy's pressure is most intense and where the breakthrough for others depends on your obedience. In the realm of divine physics, this is the moment when your frequency changes. The resonance of your spirit now disrupts the enemy's plans in ways it never did before. You're no longer just holding territory, you're advancing into darkness with the light entrusted to you. For to whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. And that requirement is not an arbitrary demand. It's heaven's way of ensuring that the weight you now carry transforms you rather than destroys you. It's the same principle by which stars burn brighter under higher gravitational pull. The greater the mass, the stronger the core must be. God is not adding to your load without adding to your capacity. But He will expect you to step into the stretch without retreating. And with that comes a heavier weight of responsibility. The pressure you feel isn't punishment. It's proof that heaven has recalibrated your role. You're now a bridge for others, a conduit through which deliverance flows. God doesn't shift you without strategy. And this new position means souls, real people, with real chains are now tied to your obedience. The question is, will you protect the mission more than your comfort? Will you stay aligned when the temptation to prove yourself burns hot? Be on your guard. Stand firm in the faith. Be courageous. Be strong. 1 Corinthians 16:13. Those words aren't poetic encouragement. They are tactical orders in the language of the kingdom. To stand firm means to hold formation even when visibility is low and the wind is against you. To be strong doesn't mean the absence of weakness. It means choosing discipline over panic, strategy over impulse, and worship over worry. History gives us a sobering reminder through the story of King William II of England, known as William Rufus, gifted with power and position. He could have been a force for justice and righteousness. Instead, he allowed arrogance, greed, and a deep disregard for the church to shape his reign. His rule fractured unity, corroded trust, and left his legacy stained. His sudden and suspicious death in the New Forest was more than a tragic ending. It was a divine caution. Power without submission becomes corruption, and corruption collapses under the weight of its own pride. Pride goes before destruction, a haughty spirit before a fall, Proverbs 16:18, and history keeps repeating this pattern for those who forget it. Pride blinds leaders to warnings, deafens them to wise counsel, and convinces them that their own voice is the highest authority. In spiritual warfare, that arrogance is like leaving the fortress gate unguarded sooner or later. The enemy walks right in. That's why this moment is critical. Your elevation is not an excuse for self-celebration. It's a call to deeper consecration. You must move like a general in the field who knows every step will either open a city's gates or leave them vulnerable to invasion. The enemy will send subtle distractions, familiar temptations, and carefully timed offenses to pull you out of position. But you were not shifted here to be bait. You were placed here to be a breaker, to dismantle strongholds, and to hold the line until others cross into freedom. The weapons we fight with are not the weapons of the world. 2 Corinthians 10:4. That means your greatest weapon in this new role is not force, but alignment with God's strategy. A soldier with the wrong weapon is a liability, but one with the right weapon in the right place becomes unstoppable. Your prayers, your discernment, and your integrity are now precision tools in God's hand. So now the question lingers, echoing in your spirit like the sound of a distant trumpet before battle. Will you let this new title become a crown of humility or a crown of pride? Will you hold it with trembling hands before God? Or will you grip it as if it belongs to you? Heaven has already written the next chapter in the book, but how it reads in your life will depend on the posture of your heart today. Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. 1 Peter 5-6. The lifting will come, but not before the kneeling. The crown will be placed, but only after the cross is carried, and the honor will last, but only if it's built on obedience rather than ambition. The shift in your heavenly title is not just an update in a book, it is a declaration in the courts of heaven. It means your role, your reach, and your responsibility have been redefined. This is not the time to shrink back into the familiar. This is the time to walk boldly into the new territory assigned to you, knowing that every step you take is recorded, every choice is witnessed, and every act of obedience echoes in eternity. So guard what God has placed in your hands. Live as if heaven is watching, because it is. And remember, the same God who changed your title is the one who will equip you to carry it. You are not stepping into this alone. You are stepping in with divine backing, angelic reinforcement, and a mission sealed by the King himself. If this word has spoken to your spirit, take a moment to like this video. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And comment 777 below as a sign that you receive this heavenly assignment. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next message that could shift the course of your journey. To every one of you, whether you've supported through super thanks or simply by being here and listening, thank you. You are part of this mission, and your presence matters more than you know. I speak blessings over you now. May your steps be steady, your vision be clear, your courage be unshakable, and your heart remain humble before the one who called you. Walk in your new title. Chosen one. Heaven has written it. Now it's time to live it.